Hi everybody, this is Greg with the Dice Must Flow, and welcome back to another episode of Sigmar and Son. My son Mark.
Hello.
And we're back talking more Age of Sigmar. And this week we are going to dive deep, or shallow, into the Idoneth, or is it Idoneth Deepkin? And so basically, let's just start with the hobby news of the week. And, it really is all about the Deepkin. Let me take my glasses off. Hopefully I can still see these. So this week we have the pre-order of stuff that went up this weekend was the Namarti Reavers. And these are basically just your Namarti Thralls with bows. Honestly, we're not too enthused about those. We'll get into that later. And another kit is the Volturnus, the High King, or the Achillean King, and that's kind of the guy on the sort of undersea horse with the unicorn horn, and a named character version of that, and that's just one kit. And so they've also announced next week's pre-orders, and those are going to be, there's 3 heroes that they're going to have, and those are the Asharan Tidecaster, and this guy, if he's a general, he can reverse the Tides of Death table, e.g. What meaning that your ebb tide is the thing that's going to happen turn 1, and then high tide, where you get those extra attacks, is going to be turn 2, and it goes backwards. The Asharan Soul Scryer, and he's got some special abilities where he lets you deploy a unit off of map, or with him, and up to 2 units off map, and then they can pop onto a map edge away 9 inches away from an enemy unit and come in. And then there's the Asharan Soul Render, which he basically has this lure light capability, and a unit wholly within 12 inches of him can roll a D3 and return that many slain models to the unit. And so that's what's coming out. That's what's for pre-order this week and pre-order next week, which means there's a lot of the units we've seen or we see in the book, the eels, the sharks, the turtle, still haven't been announced when they're going to be really released. We don't know if they're going to be all one weekend, or maybe the eels and sharks are one weekend and the turtle the final weekend.
That's what I think it'll be.
Maybe Games Workshop will give everybody a little bit of a breather, a chance to get a few paychecks so they can get all of those things. So anyway, yeah. So let's talk about hobby and what hobby we've been doing. I know Mark has been all about the Deepkin. I'm going to reach down here and we're going to show he's got the Eidolon. Well, he went whole hog. The Lotan, the Namarti Thralls, the Battalion, and the ship, as well as some paints. But we didn't get the dice because we didn't like the dice.
And it's more money that I don't have.
Yeah, more money than we have. So, and basically you're starting to build those and trying to figure out your paint scheme. And one of the things in the book they do mention, they have these clans. I don't know what the right word is, Mark.
Enclaves.
Enclaves. So they basically mention, and I'm not sure if that's really true or whatever, but they talk about if you paint a certain enclave, that you have to use the rules for that enclave. And so I know that they did that in a previous book with the people of different cities, and a lot of tournaments didn't enforce that. So I'm not sure what's going to happen on that.
I think it'll just be pick. I think mostly if you're going to go to a tournament, it'll probably just be pick your enclave, play whatever, paint how you like. You know, they don't want to force you into doing one thing. They want you to.
Right. So otherwise, hobby-wise, I started a kind of a major project, and that's working on my Nurgle army. And well, what I have is a lot of units of chaos units that are this broad range, which I talked about last week, of chaos that I had from 8th edition that really didn't synergize well. And so I've gone through and I'm looking to get, I guess, my Nurgle, Maggotkin of Nurgle, and probably Mortal Rotbringers army built. And so I've actually started, I went and did a lot of work with these guys, if it'll focus. I don't know if that'll help focus. There you go. Chaos Marauders. And you can see that I've got them built and primed. one problem I had was that before everything I had was with flails. So then I had a unit with mixed with flails and axes. So then I had more flails. I built them up with flails and then realized I didn't like those statistics as much. I should have looked. So then I went to my bits bucket and built and rebuilt them all with axes. And so I've got them primed and then kind of a greenish, I forget what color green this is. It's not the
Krieg khaki.
Green khaki, right? Krieg khaki, yeah. So I basically airbrushed them Krieg khaki. I'm going to wash them some sort of a light tone or something, maybe with a bit of camo shade, and then highlight up from there. And the other thing is I started a feculent gnarl maul, which I've got somewhat built. I don't have the bells on it. I think I'm going to wait with putting those on until I get this guy painted, and paint those separately. And then finally, I got an order that came in from Green Stuff World, and Mark had done this with his Skaven. And I got a roller. This is the Green Stuff rollers where you can roll your green stuff to make new bases. And I've got an Egyptian themed one, which I'd like to put on my Tomb Kings. And then I got this Ancestor Recall, which basically it's going to be tough to see, but basically you can make like little squares or grid patterns. And I'm thinking I'm going to use that on my Chaos guys and maybe fill in with Nurgle's Rot into those recessed areas and go from there. So that's that's what we've been doing this week. We haven't really gotten any play done. Unfortunately, it seems like we never get to play. So that's it with the news and hobbies for the week. So the battalion just came out yesterday for us, and a lot of people have gotten it early, and I think retailers let people get them early, but we didn't. So we got it yesterday. So we got our first look at the book yesterday. So this is just kind of our episode. It's sort of our first thoughts. We're not going to go through deep. We're not going to go through every single unit. Get it? Deep.
Well.
So we just thought we'd go through, pick out some things we like, some things maybe we didn't, but and just kind of go through and talk about them. So I guess I'll give a 2-minute summary of the lore, and I think most people know the lore already, and that is that the Deepkin were created by Teclis, and they were created from souls of the elves that were consumed or being held by Slaanesh. And when they basically, Teclis and Tyrion captured Slaanesh, they were able to release these souls, and Teclis used these souls to create his new elvish race. And he wanted it to be the perfect elvish race, but he found out that these souls were somewhat tainted from being within. I need to stop move my mic over and stop bouncing my desk. And so we found out that that they were tainted in some way. And so he was upset with that. And the elves then sort of ran away and went to the bottom of the sea to try and hide, because they were afraid Teclis was just going to try and destroy them because they weren't his perfect creation. And these guys, as they went on, they started realizing that huge numbers of them were dying, and they were able to find out that many of them were born without souls or only partial souls, and that's the Namarti thralls. And so they have, using elven magic, you have to they have to go and reap souls, capture souls, and infuse those souls into their people to keep them alive, which is really interesting because this is an order faction. So certainly not a good faction, but a lawful evil in the old D&D terms. And so that's sort of the background. And so you've got this this elvish faction of which is going and gathering souls to keep their people alive, which is really, really dark and interesting. And there was a story that came out this week on the Malign Portents website, where kind of along this Souls theme, Nagash who believes every soul should be going to him. And this is a theme we're seeing in a lot of their stories here. Nagash has discovered these guys and basically calls them soul thieves and basically says your time is coming. So that's sort of the background and where things are headed with that. So Mark, why don't we just go through some of the things we like, and I guess I was going to start with battle traits. I took some notes.
Before we get to that, I don't you kind of feel bad for Nagash, man. Everyone's stealing a soul. Sigmar steals souls right before the Sigmars die. He kind of captures them before they go up to I guess whatever the Age of Sigmar's heavens is. You got the Soul Reaver stealing the souls. You got the elves stealing back Slaanesha's souls he kept. So that's kind of like, I guess, the whole malign importance thing. The guy's just pissed off and wants to get all his souls back.
Right. So that will be interesting. And it'll be interesting to see where malign portents goes. And so I don't want to go off on a malign portents. Maybe we'll have a show about that. But yeah, battle traits. Again, I didn't want to go through all of them. But I guess the one I kind of liked was Well, I guess the battle traits are the typical ones that everybody in the Idoneth have, I should say. And so we'll just go again, remind people that's the Forgotten Nightmares, and the missile weapons must target the closest visible unit if you're going to shoot at an Idoneth. And then the Tides of Death is the whole tide mechanic where you have the first turn, they're in cover. And then second turn,
second turn they've got they can either shoot and charge or run and charge, but not both.
Right. And then the third turn, which is the killer turn, is where they always strike first. All the Idoneth units attack first before any other unit.
And then you have the Ebb Tide, which kind of just you can, like the retreat thing.
Retreat and charge.
Yeah, they can retreat and shoot, retreat and charge, but not both.
So, yeah, the interesting thing there is that, I guess, like I said, that they had the one hero that basically reverses that. And so maybe you're able to get that high tide turn 2. So, I guess going through command traits, and they have, so that's if you're building a Deepkin army. And if your general is a Deepkin hero, then you can pick a specific command trait. And I guess the one that I kind of thought seemed like it was best. Well, there's two of them that sort of popped out to me, and I'll go with the one I thought was best, and maybe we'll see what you thought. And this one is the one where you Born from Agony, where you add 2 to the wound characteristics of the general.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. I think that's probably the best one. The other ones aren't that great. Like,
the one that
the next best one is probably maybe Merciless Raider.
You're right on there with me. I was going to say the Merciless Raider. I was going to say was probably the other one, and that's if you've got basically a melee type general. It lets him reroll run and charge rolls, and so you're going to mitigate the ability. You're going to mitigate your chance to on that important turn where you're going to try and have that high tide come in.
You want to get in there.
You don't want to roll and fail your charge. And so that's going to be maybe a choice there. But especially, I don't think for like the big guy, the
Eidolon.
I don't think the Eidolon, the add 2 to the wound characteristic is really all that useful.
Well, he's not gonna. I don't think he'll be your general most of the time. I think most of the time your Achillean King will be your general.
Right. And so if you got an Achillean King, it's going to push him from 7 wounds to 9 wounds, and that's a significant percentage increase.
Oh yeah. I think just that chance of you having an extra turn with him is going to be pretty important, honestly. Especially with the buffs he can provide. I mean, it's not just his damage output. You got to think about it.
It's always
about the spells and the damage output. Yeah, and the command ability. Yep.
So, I guess moving on through the book, the artifacts, and there's 4 different types of artifacts. There's an Achillean artifact, the Idoneth artifact, the Asharan artifacts, and the Arcane artifacts. So starting with the Achillean artifact, well, you have to have an Achillean hero. So basically there is one unit in the book which can use these artifacts, and that's the Achillean king. Other units aren't Achillean, and the only other Achillean hero is Volcana, I forget his name.
Voltaris, I believe.
Voltaris. And he's a named unit, so he can't pick artifacts. So basically, your Achillean hero is your Achillean king. So if you could go with this artifact for him, the one that jumped out to me is the armor of Scythia or something.
We're just right on the money, Dad.
So we think a lot alike, I guess. And that's subtract 1 from melee weapons for guys that target him. So again, if you've added 2 wounds to him and subtracting 1 from melee weapons if he's in combat, just seems like a really
you can make him pretty tanky that way.
Pretty tanky, yeah.
Yeah, and the melee weapons part isn't that big of a deal because you have your what is it? Your allegiance ability, your battle trait, Forgotten Nightmares, which can protect you from your range.
Yeah, you're going to have a unit screen for him anyway, so he's probably not going to be targeted much anyway. I do know that there's a lot. One thing you're going to people are going to deal with the Forgotten Nightmares, if I may take a little side tangent, is that, and I do that a lot apparently, is that I think you're going to set up people to where they cannot see the closest unit and only see the one they want to shoot at.
You can see that.
If that makes any sense. They may move like behind a building or something. It blocks line of sight to the screen unit, and then it lets them shoot at a farther unit away. I don't know. Maybe that's something people will be doing. I just think it might happen. So moving down on the artifacts, the Idoneth artifacts. And so these are just basically any Idoneth hero can choose these. And what did you think there, Mark? Well, I have written down, so I'll go ahead and say what I have. You can look at it. I thought the Rune of Surging Tide, which is interesting because it's only once per battle, and in general, I do not like once per battle type things. But it's a +1 move to your Idoneth or a -1 move to enemy until your next hero phase. And so I could see you taking this and popping this turn 1. So basically, you basically, when you are trying to keep the range open, because you're basically trying to play for turn 3, so you're going to pop this, and so you're going to get -1 move for the enemy turn 1. And even if they double turn, there's going to be 2 turns where they are going to be at -1 move. And so that was one I thought that might be an interesting combo. Is there any?
There's 2 I like. We're differing this time. I think they're all pretty good. The Rune of Surging Tide is pretty good, but my 2 favorites are Leandre's Last Lament, which says once per battle at the start of the battle shock phase, you can say that the bearer will release the Last Lament. If you do so, friendly Idoneth Deepkin units wholly within 18 inches of the bearer do not have to take battle shock tests. And I think this is pretty good. And if you're taking like a big like thrall block or whatever, because they've got pretty weak bravery in this army. They're kind of glass cannony, if you can say.
I agree. I thought that was probably the other one I was looking at, but I just thought the other one would be a different type of tactic than the standard thing.
Yeah, and I actually like the horror shell one, which is you can pick an enemy unit within 9 inches of the bearer that has it, and you roll 2d6. If it's greater than the enemy hero's bravery, you can subtract 1 from their hit rolls for the rest of the battle.
Yeah, I guess I don't like that. I guess because I'm used to playing undead or whatever. If you go up against undead, they're gonna have a bravery 10. It's going to be an artifact that's probably may half the time. You know, bravery 10 is quite common in well, you got undead, and then
Miracle, right?
What's that?
Miracle has bravery 10 too.
I think Nurgle has it, and the Lizardmen have it. And so,
Yeah. I just like the fact that it's rest of the battle. Like it's not, it doesn't have to do with one turn, and so it's rest of the battle. So if you do get it, it's a lasting effect rather than whatever. But I mean, if you're doing this on someone, you're probably going to try and kill them first anyway. So maybe it's not that great. You've changed my mind. I take it back.
all right.
But
Good.
I do like the last lament, I think, the most.
Yeah. So then, kind of going to next, we have the Isharan artifact. And I guess I don't know how it was pronounced, but it was basically the leech artifact, the
Rich Leech.
And subtract 1 from casting rolls of wizards, basically enemy wizards, non-Idoneth. So if you're actually allied with a non-Idoneth, this is one you wouldn't want to take. But a -1 from casting rolls of wizards in 18 inches seemed pretty significant. I know it's not good against a Khorne force or whatever, but you know, and how many times have people, you know, I don't know how many times I cast Mystic Shield at Adepticon and failed by 1. So especially those spells that make us take a 7 to cast, all of a sudden now you need an 8. It's going to be really kind of difficult for people.
Yeah, I like the I think Mind Flare is pretty good, where once per battle at the start of a combat phase, pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer, subtract 1 from hit rolls for that unit until the end of the combat phase. I think is pretty good.
Yeah,
and I think the Steel Shell Pearl is okay, but it's also kind of mitigated by the fact that you have this great screening ability. What it does is that you roll dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the bearer that was caused by a missile weapon. On a 5+, the wound is negated.
Yeah. And so yeah, but that one where you have the melee weapon one, I guess that's really, I mean, if you're going to have a king, you're better off with the armor of Scythia if you got the Achillean King as your general. But if you're
right, but I mean, yeah, that's going to be more in like 2K, like, I mean, but in these 1,000 point games and stuff like that, you got to think about too,
right,
not just tournament play. You're not going to have the points to be taking the Achillean King, maybe, so you're going to be taking the Soul Render or whatever as your your general. But yeah, generally the other one is just better. So
the arcane artifacts, and these are basically, you have to have a wizard hero to be able to take one of these. And what did you think there?
The one I kind of like, I don't think it's the best, but I really like it, is the Bauble of Buoyancy. The bearer can fly. In addition, double the result of run rolls for the bearer. I think you can just, like, if you want to put that on the king and get the king, like, just in there, like, right away to fight right away. I think that's kind of cool. It's probably not the best, but I also really like the Coral Ring, because maybe this is just bad luck. Like, I failed. I think I only casted 2 Mystic Shields at Adepticon my entirety of the time. So once per battle, you can reroll a failed casting roll of the bearer. So
right, and I think you and I went somewhat the same reason, but I chose a different one, and that was Sands of Infinity. And that one lets you automatically cast the spell. No unbind. Nobody can even unbind it. Just automatically goes. And it lasts, that spell lasts for 2 rounds. So it doesn't end until your so like if you used it on Mystic Shield, that Mystic Shield would last until your next hero phase.
You know, I didn't even see that part. That is actually really good.
But it's only usable once per battle.
Right. Well, I mean, this core ring is once per battle only, and you can re-roll a failed casting roll. In addition, you can re-roll a failed unbinding roll. So I didn't even see the it lasting 2 turns. That is actually really good.
Right. So, but I guess the one you pick lets you unbind better. But this one it's going to go, and you're not going to be able to unbind it. And maybe depending on how powerful the spell is, you're going far. you're going to get an automatic on it too. So
yeah, there's some casts that are like 8+ in this, whatever. So maybe that's just
right.
You know.
So that's our thoughts on the artifacts. Lore of the Deep. I guess these are different spells that each. There's 6 spells that people can pick.
Yep.
If you're an Idoneth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to go through them all or one that talk about any that popped out.
Why don't we just pick one each and we'll talk about that?
Okay. Well, the one
you go first.
The one I really liked was Arcane Corrosion. Sorry. Is that the one you picked or something?
Just go for it. I'll pick another one.
Okay. But basically, especially if you pop that with your Arcane Artifact of Sands of Infinity, where you're going to automatically get it, it's going to automatically cast. So turn 1, Arcane Corrosion is going to do a number of mortal wounds based on the distance the enemy is from you. And so it's just line of sight. And so 36 to 48 inches, if the enemy is 36 to 48 inches from you, it's going to do what? Is it 4 mortal?
4 mortal wounds. Yeah, that's a lot.
4 mortal wounds. So turn 1, you could crank this spell off and just 4 mortal wound your enemy general.
Yeah,
and
really good.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, well, hey, Nagash, or whatever, bam, 4 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
And so that seemed really good. The other ones I honestly didn't, but I mean, you can cast that spell. It's just that you can cast that spell to return. It's just that turn 1, you're going to be, you're going to have a 4 mortal wound one available, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes your wizard really a sniper with that spell.
Speaking of sniping, I think I like Arcane Corrosion the most for the exact reason that you said. I like Pressure of the Deep as well. It's Pressure of the Deep has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, you can pick an enemy model within 12 inches of the caster that is visible to them and roll a dice. If the dice roll is greater than the model's wound characteristic, it is slain. So this is very similar to, say, like Marathi's like Gaze ability. You don't pick a unit, you pick a model. So it allows you to snipe off these icon bearers, these the standard bearers, the leaders of these like small little units that you can kind of pick off. So that's the one I probably like the second most.
Right. So like I know that like some of the undead have, if you have a banner alive or whatever, then they get to return models to the unit. So that'd be like the one you would pick off. Things like that. Cool.
Yeah, and you do have to roll a die and it be greater than the model's wound characteristics. So generally, like, it's going to be terrible against heroes because they just have you're gonna have like a 33% chance for the smaller heroes only, and
right.
then, but like I said, in like your little units, a lot of them only have 1 wound, so you just automatically kill a guy.
Is it greater than or greater than equal?
It is greater than, so you're not going to you're going to have a chance to fail.
Right. Well, rule of 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Type stuff. Yeah.
So I guess next up is basically our the rituals, and honestly, there was nothing much in the rituals that I thought were a must-have. So these are basically your priests can cast one of these a turn. One priest in your unit can cast one of these a turn. I kind of thought if I had to pick, I would probably take the Ritual of the Tempest, and that one would be enemy units cannot fly. It's very situational because you could go against a force that doesn't have any flyers, but having that available against a force could be significant if you're playing like a force that is their whole strategy, is to fly over top and then get into your back line.
Yeah, I think I don't even think that one's that good. I think the best one is the Ritual of Rousing. Heal 1 wound allocated to each friendly Eidolon on the battlefield. In addition, you can reroll failed hit rolls and casting rolls for friendly Eidolon until your next hero phase is probably the best one. Not because of the healing, but just the rerolling failed hit rolls and casting rolls.
Assuming, of course, you have an Eidolon in your force.
Yeah, but I mean, who's not going to bring that swaggy looking model? It's gorgeous.
But it's a lot of points. So
it is either 400 or 440. So yes, it is a lot of points. Yeah, and I just think it's really tough to cast all these rituals because all these rituals are on a 10+ you have to cast, and there is bonuses you get for having like you get a bonus for having a Gloomtide shipwreck near you. You get a bonus for having basically other priests, Isharan heroes near you. But I mean, a 10+ is still quite the asking cost, I believe. So I think they're free, so you're going to cast them. You're going to try and cast them all the time, but they're not that great.
Right. So, kind of going through the book, the next thing I saw, well, there was battle plans in here, and they had battle plans, and they had a glory campaign.
Yes.
So I haven't really looked at the glory campaign, but I did see one battle plan that kind of jumped out at me. Yeah, and that was the undersea attacker one, and that one just kind of intrigued me as something to play, because basically in that battle plan you have a ship that's on the map, and then the Idoneth are attacking the ship, and they're trying to control the ship, but they also have the Idoneth have the ability to dive down below the water again, and essentially, I guess sort of the Tomb King and Tomb Beneath the Sands, they can go down and then they can resurface a later turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess while they're down below, they heal too. So it was kind of interesting, I thought.
And there's a skirmish variant for it, which is kind of cool.
Skirmish variant for it too, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, that was a battle plan that I thought, wow, this is one I looked at that I'd like to play.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the enclaves?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the enclaves.
All right, so the enclaves are similar to, if you've ever seen the, I guess the Daughters of Cain. They kind of have their temples, or the Quadrant Overlords have their skyports.
Skyports, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's going to be, I believe, 6 different enclaves. There are 6 different enclaves.
And so,
we can just talk about probably the ones that we think are the best. Do you have one that you think are the best, or
I don't have any that I looked at? But
right.
Enclaves are basically, you pick an enclave that you're part of, and then you have a specific. Basically, you're going to get certain rituals, or what are the terms?
Abilities. You get different abilities: War Scroll Battalions, magic, and command abilities.
Okay. So what was an enclave? And this is the one where they said if you had played, or depending on how you paint it, that's what you have to have, right? But
yeah. Well,
for now.
Well, yeah. My personal favorite is the Morphan. So in the Morphan, you have, really the reason I think the Morphan is the best is you have it has the ability for your Isharan Soul Renders when they use their lure light, and what that allows is, your lure light allows you to bring back Idoneth Deepkin, similar to what the Death have. You get to bring back a D3 models to the unit. This one allows you to bring an additional 3 back to your D3 roll. So if you roll, a 3 on your D3 roll, you're bringing back 6 guys. And you can bring multiple Isharan Soul Renders, and you can just bring, you can have a pseudo Death Order army with these guys, and just bring back 9 dudes, 10 dudes a turn, and I think that's just really cool.
On that capability, it's models, not wounds?
Add 3 to the number of models that are returned.
So we haven't seen the units yet released, but the eels and stuff. So if you had a unit of 3 eels,
I believe it's only usable on the Namarti Thralls. Let me get to the Namarti. Let me get to the
probably. I was going to say, because that seemed really powerful where you can.
So yeah, it is at the end of your battle shock phase, pick a friendly Namarti unit. So yeah, it's only Namarti. So you have your Namarti Reavers and Namarti Thralls.
Guys that shoot or the other guys. Okay. So interesting. But still, like you said, you can basically use those guys to screen. They get shot up or killed, and then all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of them again.
Yeah, I just think it's cool that you kind of have like, if you want to play a recurring theme, the only way you could do that was I have to play death. Now you can play an order faction that has these recurring themes, so you're not kind of like, they're not throwing each, like, death gets these abilities, order gets these abilities, destruction these, and chaos these. So I think that's kind of cool.
Right.
And then in addition, your War Scroll Battalion, you can have up to 6 units of Namarti Thralls instead of, I believe it's 2 to 4. So basically, so yeah, Morphin Namarti Corps can include up to 6 units instead of 2 to 4. So this is kind of your like spam dudes list, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get magic. So Morphin Tidecasters know Freezing Mist spell instead of a spell from the Lore of the Deeps. So your Freezing Mist spell says it has a casting value of 6. You pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster that is visible. Until your next hero phase, that unit can only move 1 inch when it piles in, and any abilities that would increase its pile in are ignored. So basically, they can only pile in 1 inch instead of 3.
Interesting.
I don't know how great that is, but I just like the bringing back extra dudes guy is really, I think, really good.
Okay.
I don't think the other enclaves are honestly all that great. Like some of them have like you can reroll failed hit rolls of 1 and stuff like that, which is
that's always nice, but
it's not that great.
Right. It depends. If you got 50 thralls out there and you're rolling 50 attack dice, and each of them have 2 attacks, you're rolling 100 dice. You're gonna have a lot of ones you're re-rolling. So
yeah, that is true.
So, kind of looking next, you spoke of battalions, and I know there's some battalions in here.
Yep, there are, I believe, 5. You have your you have your Royal Council, your Achillean Corps, your Namarti Corps, and your Phalanx, and then there's 6 because you have the Idoneth Deepkin Alliance of Wood and Sea. Funnily named, it's pretty funny that everyone's calling it Driftwood on the forums because it's Sylvaneth and Deepkin.
So that's actually 5, unless there's another one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're right. I'm dumb.
So Royal Council is kind of the cheapest one, and I guess I wrote down points it would take to build these things. And so a Royal Council, and just the minimum, what is the Royal Council, Mark? I don't have that.
It is 1 Achillean King, 1 Isharan Tidecaster, and 1 Isharan Soul Scryer. And depending on what enclave you take, you can include more.
Right.
Like I know the Ironic Enclave allows you to take 2 Tidecasters and 2 Soul Scryers.
Right. And so that just the standard enclave, though, that's 440 points.
Standard battalion, yeah.
Standard battalion for the Royal Council. I think you'll probably see that. I know it. I forget what it adds, but I think most people are probably going to take that just to reduce their drop count. And those are probably 3 guys you're going to see in an army.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think this is one that you're probably going to see a lot, just because of the whole reducing your drops is just so important in trying to get the first turn or whatever turn you want.
Battalion itself is cheap, right? Like 100 points.
Yeah. But what it does is it allows you to you can pick up basically it allows you to increase your move characteristics of your guys. So you get to pick 3 dudes, and you can increase their move characteristic by 3 inches. So that's pretty good. Right.
So then there's the Achillean Corps. What is that?
The Achillean Corps is probably my favorite one, just because it has the models that I like the most of in this army, which is the Achillean Leviathan, one of them. 2 to 4 units of Achillean Guard, which are the eels, and 1 to 2 units of the Achillean Alopexes, which are the sharks.
Okay, so that core, if you took the minimum number of units, like 1 eel or 1 shark or whatever it was.
1 Leviathan, 2 eels, and 1 shark.
Right. So if you took that, the minimum is 800 points for that to field that.
Depending on which eels you take. It could be up or down 20 points.
So, and what does that do for you?
Once per phase, you can reroll 1 hit, 1 wound. So once per phase, you can reroll 1 hit, wound, save, run, or charge roll for 1 unit from this battalion that is wholly within 12 inches of the turtle, which is the Leviathan.
Okay. Interesting. So I know
it's once per phase, not once per round. So you could reroll a hit in the shooting phase. You can reroll a wound in the shooting phase, whatever one you want. You can reroll a run roll. You can reroll a save roll in your combat phase, or a hit and wound roll in the combat phase, the melee combat phase.
Well, I think it says it was once per phase, so you can't do the hit, wound, and
well, that's what I'm saying. You can choose which one you want in the combat phase. You can either do a hit roll, a wound roll, or a save roll.
Right. Okay.
But not all. That would be very good, I think, if it was all.
Yeah. So then there's the what is it? The Namarti.
The Namarti core.
Right.
Kind of just the spam Namarti list, which is 1 Isharn Soul Render, the guys I talked about that have the Lorelite. 2 to 6 units of Namarti Thralls, and 2 to 4 units of Namarti Reavers.
And what does this guy cost, and what does it do?
The Namarti core, I believe, costs 160 points. Let me just double check that, though. It costs 100 points.
Okay, so it's really cheap.
It's pretty cheap, yeah, and it reduces your drop by a significant amount.
Right. If you're going to take like 5 units of Namarti Thralls, bam, you're going to be, it's going to significantly increase your drop, reduce your drops.
Yes. So if the Isharn Soul Render from this battalion uses their Lure Light ability on an Namarti unit from this battalion, the D3 roll to determine how many models are returned is just treated as being a roll of 3. There's no need to roll with the dice.
That's pretty good.
So if you have the ability, the Morphin ability that I was talking about, you're just like 6 guys back.
Right.
Immediately, which I think is pretty good. The only thing I don't like about this is you have to take 2 to 4 units of Reavers, which I don't think are that great.
Oh, yeah. So I did say that these guys were, this was basically a 520 point minimum to build this unit plus the 100 for the battalion. But you're probably, if you're going to use this, you're going to use it on more Namarti.
Yeah, I would assume.
So, and then there's the crazy one, the Phalanx. Which is what? It's a Royal Council.
Basically a Royal Council.
One of everything.
Yeah, a Royal Council, 2 to 4 Achillean core, and then 2 to 4 Namarti core. It's basically, if you're playing just giant games, I mean, there is no way you're going to be taking this in a 2,000 point list.
Well, I actually figured out that the minimum point cost for this was 3,080 points.
Okay, so there's 100%
cost of the battalion.
Yeah, so plus the cost of the battalion. But it's pretty detrimental. The ability is pretty good. It basically allows you to just start with High Tide. It's really good.
So, and then there's the Wood and the Sea Battalion, and I didn't do calculations on that because I didn't have the Wood Elf.
It's under 2,000 points.
So, but kind of interesting if you're going to do an Elven faction. It basically had a Tree Lord or whatever in it.
Yeah, so it's got a Tidecaster, 2 units of Achillean Guard, a unit of Namarti Thralls, a unit of Reavers, a unit of the Sharks, so 1 Shark, a Branch Witch, which is kind of their Tidecaster version from Sylvaneth, 2 units of Dryads, and a Tree Lord Ancient. And it basically allows your Sylvaneth to be treated as Idoneth and have the Tides of Death battle trait, so they can use they get the High Tide effect and all that.
wonder how high. Yeah, so that's interesting. I have high tide and I have trees.
Yep. I actually there was a poll on the Facebook page of Idoneth, like the Idoneth Facebook page or whatever that I'm a part of. And there was a poll of what was the best battalion, and people, it was like overwhelmingly that this was the best battalion, which was interesting to me because I personally don't think that. I think probably the Namarti Corps is the best, but we'll see. There's a big chance I'm wrong.
Right. And so I guess that's it for the battalions, and then the units, and I figure most people can actually go through the units that have been announced, and if you don't know, you can go to the Warhammer webpage, and when you basically click the unit that you're looking to buy, they have downloads, and you can download the scroll. Wrong universe.
Scroll, same thing.
The scroll. You can download the War Scroll and take a look at it. So I thought maybe we talk a little bit about some of the things that we know are coming, but we haven't seen War Scrolls for them.
Yep. So we've seen the Eidolon of Mathlin. We've seen the aspect of Sea and Storm. So you guys are able to look at that. With the pre-order being announced, you're able to look at the Volturnus and Achillean King. So I guess we have the Tidecaster, the Soul Scryer, the Soul Render.
And they've kind of spoiled a little bit of those.
Yeah, the Sharks.
I'm interested in talking about the Eels, the Sharks, and the Turtle.
Okay.
And then you got two variants of the Eels. So why don't we start with those?
Okay, so we have the Achillean Morsar Guard, I believe is how you say that. And these are basically your stronger version of them. I wouldn't say stronger, more offensive unit.
You got your offensive unit, and then you got a defensive unit of Eels, right?
Yeah, which is the Achillean Ishlin Guard. So let's start with the Morsar Guard since it's first in the book. So both of them have 4 wounds each, so a total of 12 wounds per group of 3.
Right.
They both will move 14 inches. They both will have a 4+ save, and they both have a bravery 6. So
14-inch move.
It's quite the move. I mean, so
wow.
You can go up to 20 inches if you run them,
or charge 14 plus whatever. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got a giant threat range.
Right. Okay.
So the Morsar Guard, they have melee weapons, Volt Spear. It has a range of 2 attacks, 3 and 3 to hit and wound, no rend, and 1 damage each. The Eels then have I guess their Bite, which is range 1 attack, 3 and 3, and then this is a D3 damage.
Okay.
And then you have the Lashing Tail of the Eel, which is going to be a range 2, D3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, 1 damage each, no rend, and the Eels are going to be the same for each unit. So,
okay,
the Guard and the Ishlin Guard and the Morsar Guard.
So we're running a little short on time. What are the defensive capabilities of the Eels? Because I think we talked and we looked at these and we both agreed we liked the defensive one just so much more.
Yeah, so basically the Morsar Guard can like unleash its energy and then like do this like little unleash energy and then deal like a small amount of mortal wounds to a unit, and then it has a thing where it gives its Volt Spear's rend. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But the Ishlin Guard has an ability where you can ignore rend characteristics of attacks against this unit when making save rolls for this unit. In addition, this unit has a 3+ save instead of 4+ save if it made a charge in the same turn. So these are the defensive ones that are actually less points, 140 points for a group of 3. So what I was saying was you have this screening ability with the Ishlin Guard. I actually think these guys are going to be the best screeners since they have a stupid movement capability. You just run them up 14 inches, stick them in their face. You have a 4+ save. You throw a Mystic Shield on. They have a 3+ save. You're going to be ignoring rend characteristics against them. And then when you do charge, you're going to be, if they have the Mystic Shield on them, you're going to be having a 2+ save. And that's just insane to me.
Yeah, seems pretty good. And I guess just real quick, the turtle has basically, if you're within a certain distance of it, you're going to get a bonus to its save too.
Yeah, the turtle has a really awesome ability. If you're wholly within 12 inches of the turtle, you get treated as being in cover, which I think is a really cool ability. Now, it is wholly, so that I think is going to be somewhat hard if you're running these big blocks of thralls or reavers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's very possible for you to just have your eels within.
Right. And this, I guess, points out kind of a design choice in this army that Games Workshop did. And that is your quote-unquote wholly within. It seems like most powers or abilities, the unit has to be wholly within the command bubble or the bubble of the guy providing it, as opposed to just having one model of a unit in there. Because a lot of times the spells in the past have said, if a model is within 12, if a unit is within 12 inches, and that means if any one model in that unit is within 12 inches.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this last week. If you
No,
I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting them know if they want to go back.
So that's it. And then the turtle has some limited shooting.
Yeah, it has a range 24, 3 attacks, 3 up to hit, 3 up to wound. No Ren, damage 1. It's not that great at shooting. It has a ton of wounds. It has 16 wounds, and it has a 3 up save. Now, important to note, I saw someone complaining about this on the forums, that basically they were saying, oh, the turtle is so broken, it has a 2 up save automatically because it's an Idoneth Deepkin unit. It's within 12 inches of itself automatically, wholly within 12 inches of itself, right? It's going to get cover. It's going to have an automatic 2+ whatever. Monsters are not capable of getting cover. So that's something to just know.
Okay, interesting.
So it will never gain cover from itself.
Cover from itself. I was like, wow, that's a heck of a combo.
Yeah, no. So it won't do that. It is a powerhouse in melee, though. It's got 4 melee attacks. The Crushing Jaws, which is just a 1-inch range, 1 attack. It has a change on its to hit based on how many wounds, but it starts at a 2+, and then it's a wound at 2+, and it's got a Ren -2, and it does D6 damage. But if you do roll a 6 for your to hit, you just do 6 wounds, mortal wounds.
Wow. So it's kind of like the the Necrosphinx had the big, if you hit with 2 things, you get 10 wounds or whatever.
Not as good, but yes.
Not as good. Yeah. Well, you had to hit twice with that.
That is true.
So, well, that's basically the show for this week.
Yeah, we're running a little short on time. Sorry about that.
Went ahead and watched last week. We got a pretty good number of viewers. Hopefully, you guys will return and keep returning. And send us a note. Let us know what you want to cover. Next week, I'm not sure we're going to be able to have a show. I'm going to be out of town traveling, so I'll have a laptop, but I might not be able to do the show. But we're going to try and have a show coming up. We'll probably have another Deepkin show where we're going to maybe go into a little bit of list building and talk about some lists that we might build with that. Mm-hmm. And we might start lining up some guests to come in and talk about stuff because well, we're not experts, and I'm going to try and get some experts on. So that's it for now.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. I mean, I told my dad before last episode, I was like, I think it'll be really cool if we just get 100 viewers for our first show. And you guys poured in. We got over 400 viewers, and I think that's just awesome. Right. I really do appreciate it.
So as we were saying, that's it for now. I'm going to end with some thematic music. So that's it for now. We will talk to you next time. Thanks.
Hey guys.
Bye.